Mdot presents The Extra Mile with Paul and Waverly.
Welcome into another edition of the Extra Mile podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I'm Paul, joined by my co-host Waverly, and we had plans for this podcast, and then of course everyone knows Mother Nature strike, Hurricane Ida. So today on the podcast we have Mdot PIO Katey Hornsby, who is our producer and as well covers the Southern District right now for us, and that includes hurricanes. Also later in the show, we will talk to Shane Martin, who is the head of the construction division here at Mdot, and he's going to take us through the construction process.
So we're joined here with Mdot PIO and our lovely producer, Katey Hornsby. She is the Mdot's Southern District PIO, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Hurricane Ida and Mdot's response.
Yeah, so, Hurricane Ida, I'm sure everybody had their eyes glued to the TV as she formed and began making her way through the Gulf and into Louisiana. At the beginning, the way she was tracking and her strength and everything like that, we were predicted to get hit pretty hard, not only the coast where we usually think of impacts from hurricanes, but also southwest Mississippi into central Mississippi. And so going into that, our guard was up. We were ready, we were preparing, we were doing everything we can ahead of Hurricane Ida. And so we actually, we did sustain damage in a lot of different areas throughout our state, but it wasn't as bad as we predicted it to be, which is definitely a blessing, but there was still some cleanup to do. In southwest Mississippi, multiple counties, Admit County, Adams, Walthall, just widespread southwest Mississippi. There was, signals that were damaged, traffic signals. There was trees, debris in the roadways. There were some closures, different things like that. There's been some congestion that had happened after the storm, a few days after. Just people from Louisiana coming in, trying to get some gas, different resources, supplies, different things like that. So southwest Mississippi, they were hit pretty hard considering the storm, and they've been working to clean up. They work diligently to do it, and we thank those men and women. Down in South Mississippi, Highway 90, it's usually the area that tends to get hit pretty hard, just mainly because of the storm surge. You have the storm surge that causes flooding. It brings sand and debris and everything like that on the roadways, and just like with a regular severe weather, it caused flooding on Highway 90, and so our crews were able to hit the ground running as soon as it was safe and began clearing debris. And it's taken a few days, and it's been an effort, but as always, they are able to get things rolling and get traffic moving again, so we thank them as well. And there's a few other closures, 604 due to flooding as well, and a couple of things like that, as well as central Mississippi. But in the southeast Mississippi, there was a washout on State Route 26. That was, I saw it in person, and pictures don't do it justice. It was a really serious washout, and that's something that we're currently dealing with.
Yeah, so you said that you were down there and you spoke with the district engineer, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about what he said?
I did. I spoke with Kelly Castleberry, and he walked us through what exactly happened, as well as, what's next, how do we make repairs, how long it might take, he really walked us through it. And so instead of me rehashing that, we actually filmed him talking about it. So we're going to actually play that for y'all so y'all can hear firsthand.
Pretty much right now, Highway 26 in George County, we have a section of the highway that looks like it's gone through a slide. And what that is, the soil looks like it was saturated, and we had heavy rains in the area last night. Of course, we've had heavy rains this year, and of course with Ida just coming over us, the soil looks like it liquefied and the highway just slid. And of course we had a major slide, and we lost the section of the highway.
And, where do we kind of go from here? What are the next steps?
Right now, Mdot's assessing the situation. We're in the process of doing a survey using LiDAR. That way we can get a good feel of the roadway condition, the size of the hole, the size of the slide. We're in the process of getting utilities moved in order for remediation to begin. So Mdot will take that survey back. We'll look at the geotechnical aspect of this area, and we'll design a fix for this road, and then we'll let an emergency contract to make a repair to Highway 26.
Okay, and again, that was Kelly Castleberry, kind of recapping what happened and what the next steps are. And we will continue to keep y'all updated. It's going to be a process, and we will keep y'all updated along the way.
Thank you for that, Katey. And so what can Mississippi residents and drivers take away from this hurricane?
Yeah, it's important to remember to treat a hurricane, to take it seriously, and to treat it like it's going to be, potentially a Category 4, and to prepare early by getting your evacuation plan in place and to have an emergency kit. We saw before Ida got close or made landfall, there was an increase of people on the roadways doing their last-minute errands, choosing to evacuate last minute, and that caused a lot of congestion. And if you want to avoid that and not be stuck on the roadways and help continue to keep everybody safe, then it is important to plan early and to stay off the roadways as much as possible, because our crews are going to be out there trying to prep the roadways and get them ready ahead of the storm. And that's why it's so important for people to stay home to, again, keep that congestion down, as well as allow enough room on the roadways for our men and women to do the work that they need to do ahead of the storm. And it's so important not only to try and stay home right before the storm hits while we're prepping the roads, but during the storms as well, and right after, because as we go out after the storm, we're surveying the roadways. We're seeing, if there's any damage done, if any roads have been compromised due to floodwaters or, anything like that. So it's important to, if possible, stay in one place right before, during, and after the storm. It'll help keep you safe, as well as our men and women who are out there trying to keep the roadways safe.
Absolutely. And it's always important to be prepared, even in the event that nothing happens. It's always better to be prepared than not.
It's so true. And, a lot of times people will say, should I get prepared? It might not be as bad as it's being predicted. And you know what? If you do prepare and you do evacuate and nothing happens, all you did was evacuate and keep yourself safe. You don't lose anything by...
It's a test run.
Exactly. It's a test run, if nothing else. So you never really lose anything when you stay prepared and you react properly.
And so hurricane season, even though we just dealt with this, it goes on till end of November. So can you pitch the Mdot Hurricane Preparedness Resources one more time before we get you out of here?
Of course. So we've got our, we have our normal resources, the Mdot Traffic app, as well as mdottraffic.com, and you can use those year-round to monitor the roadways and traffic alerts, different stuff like that. We have gomdot.com/hurricanes, which maps out everything for hurricane season, what you need to know, checklist, contraflow information, everything like that. You can find all of that information as well in our evacuation guides, and you can actually order those, get them sent to your house at gomdot.com/maps. And of course, I have to plug our social media because it is such a useful tool that people can use, and it's right on your phone, at Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter. Give us a follow, and we keep those sites up to date as much as possible so people are aware and they have the latest information to keep them safe.
Thank you so much for joining us, Katey. Great information.
Thank you, Katey.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Carr, Director of Intermodal Planning for Mdot. As the fight against COVID-19 continues, limited access to transportation to vaccination sites has become a concern, particularly for persons with transportation challenges. In an effort to help residents in need of vaccination, Mdot is supporting a statewide initiative that assists local residents schedule free rides to local COVID-19 vaccination sites. You can call 1-866-813-3616 to be connected to a regional call center and for more information.
So Shane Martin is the construction engineer here at Mdot, and we're really excited to have him. So Shane, can you tell us a little bit about how you got your start here at Mdot?
Sure, and thank you for having me. I graduated from Mississippi State, like most of us engineers here, in December of 1997. Began at Mdot in the Bridge Division in January of 98 as an engineer in training. Stayed there for about 2 years, then left, did a little short stint with a consulting firm, decided I wanted to come back, so I returned to Mdot in July of 2000 in the geotechnical branch of Materials Division. Stayed there for 11 years. Came to Construction Division in September of 2011 as the area engineer for District 3, which is in Yazoo City, and District 7 in Macomb. And then in January of 2017, I was promoted to Assistant State Construction Engineer. And then here recently, June of 2021, I was appointed State Construction Engineer after my predecessor, Earl Glenn, was promoted to District Engineer in Yazoo City.
Shane, we were talking before the show about the construction process, and it's very complex, and learned, and it's very obvious that Mdot doesn't just decide to do a construction project one day and start. There are a lot of things that happen. So tell us, what warrants a need for an Mdot construction project?
Well, there's several different examples. One, there could be a major company or manufacturer, for example, like Nissan, Continental Tire, Toyota, that we've had here recently, that they decide they want to locate their business here, and after a location is selected, then it's up to us to provide that infrastructure to support that facility. That's one example of need. Other examples include adding capacity to a given highway to reduce congestion or alleviate, backups, that kind of thing. We widened I-55 South from McDowell Road to Byram. Finished that a few years ago. We're currently working on Highway 49, widening it to 6 lanes from Richland to Florence. So to help alleviate some congestion, sometimes we have safety projects that we see a need to improve an intersection where something may be considered dangerous or based on crash data or something like that. Also, some of our state highways may be a little narrow in spots or curvy in spots, and we try to widen or alleviate curves where we can. We have routine district maintenance projects that the districts really prioritize those based on their need, based on how deteriorated the pavement is. And then, of course, we have a interstate maintenance plan that we develop, that we have a committee that rides all the interstates in the state every year and develops a 3-year interstate maintenance plan for that. So those are just some of the examples of need, of how you determine the need for a project.
And so when you talk about the interstate maintenance plan and how you drive the interstates once a year, and is that that's only to improve the interstates, correct?
Right. Our interstate system is broken up into segments, and sometimes you'll see a segment of I-55 being overlaid for a given year, and that's something that was determined prior to or determined during a previous interstate ride, that this segment of I-55 in Montgomery County is worse than any other section of I-55 in this given area, so that we prioritize different segments of interstates all over the state to come up with when we need to overlay those.
Okay. And so from the time that a project, becomes an idea to when cars are actually driving on it, what does that timeline usually look like?
Once a need is realized, really one of the first things we do is we hold what's called a location committee meeting. which is made up of various division personnel and district personnel that's going to be involved in the project. We go out to our area engineers and construction division are part of this meeting, but we go out and visit a given site. If we're going to do a bridge replacement, for example, on a state highway in a rural area, then we'll go out and look at it. We're looking for things like utilities. We're looking for environmental concerns. We're looking for any kind of local concerns that may pop up in our plan development. So an example of a bridge replacement, we usually have 3 options. We can either close the road and replace the bridge in place, if that's an option, but that's based on whether or not it would cause too much of a disturbance to the local area. We can look at building a detour bridge off to one side and replacing the bridge in place, or we can build a new bridge on new alignment while traffic still runs on the old bridge. Those are usually the 3 alternatives, and we try to make the best recommendation based on the field conditions. And once those recommendations are made, reports put together and sent in for approval, and then once that's approved, then we start moving forward with plan development from there.
And this is a team sport. There's a lot of different people at Mdot that are involved. When does pre-construction kind of start to come into play there?
Pre-construction comes in I guess the location committee meeting is, you could consider a pre-construction activity as well, but we have environmental division involved, we have roadway, we have bridge in this example, the district construction division involved. I'm sure right-of-way division, that's something else we would determine whether or not we need to buy right-of-way. Once all that's figured out, we start developing field review plans, which is basically a preliminary set of plans that gives us an idea of putting to paper what we're thinking about when we're out in the field looking at this job to begin with. Once we determine that field review plans look good, in the example I was talking about with a bridge replacement, when we go out to do a field review, a lot of times the bridge will be staked off, so we have an idea. We want to make sure what we've drawn up initially will work out there, that we're not missing something, there's no conflicts we need to deal with, like a driveway or something that needs to be relocated. Once that's complete, then we move to an office review stage, which really starts picking up the pace on things. The office review plans are a lot more detailed. They'll have a lot of features in them. They'll have all your pay item quantities and descriptions, like how much asphalt are we going to need? How much concrete do we need for this? How long is the bridge going to be? All that kind of stuff. And then it'll show all the local features on the roadway sheet, like if there are wetlands, it'll show that. It'll show the terrain of the road, houses, driveways, local businesses, property, right-of-way area, all that kind of stuff.
So there's lots of little pieces involved.
There's lots of little pieces involved. Office reviews, once those plans are complete, then we have an office review where all the players involved, roadway, bridge, construction, anybody else, district and project office personnel by this, project engineer that's going to be overseeing this is involved. So we all sit down and go through the plans to see if there's any corrections that need to be made. Depending on the scope and complexity of the project, sometimes this can take a couple of hours, sometimes it can take a couple of days. We've had some that have gone a week. I was involved in one day that I think we started about 10 o'clock that morning in roadway design, and I don't remember the exact time that the lights in the building cut out automatically, but we were there that late, and we could not figure out where the little button was to make them come back on because they're on a timer. So we finished that office review with our phones using the flashlight. And
wow.
I think we walked out of here about 9 o'clock that night. But
That's dedication right
Yeah.
there.
So
That really shows how much dedication and how much goes into construction projects.
that's right.
So once the plans are hammered out, so when do they actually go to bid? Is that the next step in the process?
Almost. Actually, once final plans are developed, then they are sent to construction division. And then we take those plans and we develop the contract bid proposal. And the proposal contains all the, it contains notice to bidders and special provisions and other information that may not be captured in our standard specifications or in the plans or things like that, such as if we're going to require night work on the job, that's going to be a notice to bidders that you'll see in the proposal. That's not going to be there may be a note in the plans, but that's something you want to call the bidder's attention to. So we develop our proposal, and we also then in turn develop the state estimate. Once those things are done and we finalize our proposals, then we work with contract administration to get the advertisement ready to go out. And then once projects are advertised, we allow, they're posted on our Go Mdot page under Business Center Project Letting. We allow contractors to submit questions that we're responsible for answering. If there are any mistakes in our plans or contract documents that we catch, or sometimes they get called to our attention, we can correct those by an addendum that's also posted online. And then bids are received the fourth Tuesday of every month. We take those bids and we compare them to our state estimate. Contract administration goes through them to make sure there's no irregularities. And then there's a group of staff that makes recommendations to the commission as to whether or not a project should be awarded or rejected based on those bids. And once the projects are awarded, then they go to construction. And they're turned over to the district and the project engineer that's going to oversee the construction. And by that point, construction division becomes more of a support role. Our area engineers help resolve conflicts or issues that may come up out in the field during construction. Try to assist the project engineers on what's the best way to handle a given situation. They also make routine site visits just to check, see how things are going. Get out there and talk to the project engineers, make sure everything's going okay, stuff like that. Once a project is complete, then the project engineer calls for a final inspection, and again, that's something our area engineers and construction division are involved in. They'll go out with the project engineer, the district personnel, sometimes the contractors there too, and go through and inspect everything, make sure everything looks okay. If there's some minor items that need to be corrected, they notify the contractor of that. And then once it's done, the project engineer informs us that everything looks good and we're ready to release it. So what we do is we write what's called a maintenance release, which is issued to the contractor that lets him know you're done, we're good with the work you've done. And at that point, going forward, Mdot takes over maintenance of the facility we just constructed.
Yeah, so y'all are involved from beginning to end of all these
Yes.
projects. And you specifically, you've been at Mdot for a while and in the construction division for a while.
Right.
What's one of the projects that you've worked on that you're really proud of?
Ooh, I've been involved in a lot of stuff that I'm proud of. Even before I was in construction division, when I was in the geotechnical branch, I was heavily involved in the Greenville River Bridge. I spent a lot of time up there when that was constructed. In construction division, I was involved partially in the I-55 South widening to Byram. The office review I was talking about that we had to use our phones as flashlights was a big pavement restoration project in District 7 in Macomb that turned out really nice. So yeah, there's been several projects I've been involved in and enjoyed. in my career here.
Well, thanks so much for telling us all this. This is a lot of information that we've learned about how the process, goes from beginning to end. And I just think it shows a lot of the work that Mdot does. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope I've been informative and helpful, and would do this again sometime if I need to.
Well, we would love to have you back.
Thank you so much, Shane.
Thank you.
It's been a very informative episode, and before we get out of here, I'd like to also say that all our thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by Ida. And on a little bit of a lighter note, we have college football season beginning. Waverly, are you excited?
I'm so excited for college football, and I'm also really excited for Mdot's Road to Game Day campaign. Safety is one of Mdot's top priorities, and this campaign focuses on ensuring that the drivers make it to all their games safely and roadside workers remain safe while working on the highways. There's going to be an influx of traffic with college football and with football just in general, traveling all over the southeast to these games, and we want drivers to be patient and be smart out on the roads.
No doubt. And we've got a terrific resource to get you to the game on time and safely, the Mdot Traffic app. And you can also visit mdottraffic.com before you head out. Check before you get out. And also...
Yeah, and definitely be sure to follow us on social media at Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter. And let's good luck to your teams.
Absolutely. Good luck to your teams. And we've got to, before we get out of here, let's thank Katey Hornsby, our wonderful producer, our editor, Drew Hall. Thank you for all the hard work that you do. And remember to drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.